Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing my April TBR, but before we get into it, let's talk about the two books that I didn't finish from my March TBR. So they were Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson and The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. This is the second book in the Hannibal Lecter series, and this is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy. I will probably not carry these over into my April TBR, especially Mistborn, just because it is kind of intimidating to me at this point, just with how kind of crappy my reading has been and all over the place. So we will get back to this in a later TBR. Let us get started with the TBR game. I do have several books from Libby, my Kindle, and Scribd that I will be reading in the TBR, but we will discuss that after we get our prompts from my physical TBR. Rolling 4. The first prompt is do more, read a book by a native author. And for this, I will be going with Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is a science fiction story. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with the solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as a unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Zila, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger, Seripio, is a young man blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Zila well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. I am excited to get into this. I have heard fantastic things about the characters. Everybody loves the characters in this book, so I'm very excited. So next up is Take a Chance, read a book out of your comfort zone. For this, I am going to pick The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I have picked this book up several times before, and I just ended up not getting to it because I made excuses, really. I'm honestly kind of intimidated by this book, and I've heard that while her writing is beautiful, it is a little bit hard to get into, but I've heard fantastic things about it. A lot of people say this is like the most beautifully written and plotted book they've ever read. I could be entirely off base about what this is about, but I think this has magical beings that are kept in camps or they are killed off, and they have the ability to shift the tectonic plates and like cause issues or something like that. There's something with the fifth season where the plates cause issues during the fifth season and they're there to control them. If you've read this book, I'm so sorry, I'm doing a terrible job. I'm butchering this plot line, but I'm excited to see how I like this. So next up is Ugly Love, read a book with an ugly cover. So I actually have two for this. I could go with The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. And it's funny because I was just talking about how I feel like Mistborn is too intimidating for me. We're talking about one of the most intimidating fantasy series ever. But yeah, this cover is pretty hideous. This is a very long series, and I just want to read the first book to see if I would like it. Honestly, I haven't heard anybody actually explain what this is about. I just know that it is a beloved adult series. So I'm going to give this a shot. And also, I would like to get to 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. I hate this cover. I hate it a whole lot. I think it's hideous. This is about a guy who writes a blog basically describing all of the perfect murders in literature, and when someone starts recreating the murders that he's writing about, the police come to him kind of questioning what's going on. So this is very short, and I think it's gonna be good. People either hate it or love it, so it'll be interested to see how I feel about this. And then of course this as well. And the last prompt is going to be simple, read a book with a one-word title. And for this, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right. I looked up a pronunciation, hopefully that's right. It's going to be Furia by Yumil Saeed Mendez. This really kind of just sounds like a YA coming of age story about this girl who has always wanted to play football, but her family doesn't like agree with her doing that, and she has a crush on a boy in town, and just a whole lot of just like life. So those are all of the prompts, and then we will move on to my Kindle, Scribd, and Libby app books. So I very rarely put a Kindle or Scribd book on my TBR, and I really want to get them down. So what I did was I did a spinner wheel for all of the unread books on my Kindle and all of the unlistened to audiobooks on Scribd. If you're not familiar with Scribd, it's like basically like an unlimited audiobook, and it has ebooks on there as well. Source for about $10 a month. It's way more affordable than Audible in my opinion. The only downside is that if you read a certain number of like more popular titles, they will take out any of the other popular titles that you have in your like saved and make you wait until your next payment cycle to listen to them. So when I did the spinner wheel, I tried to add books that weren't already taken out, or books that I didn't think might be taken out if I were to like listen to one more popular book and they deem that that's too much. You know, I would try to hit the books that I didn't think that they would deem popular and add them to the spinner. So first up, I already did this. Obviously I don't have a camera, I film on my phone, so I had to do the spinner thing on my phone. So I'm gonna put the graphics right here so you can see what I spun. But the first book that I got on my wheel was Zenny by Rebecca Witherspoon. This is a marriage of convenience between Zenny and Mason. Zenny's aunt and Mason's friend, she ends up dying, and in her will she leaves both of them a large sum of money, but they end up having to get married first. Rebecca Witherspoon is fantastic, and so I'm excited to read Zenny. And then the next up I got was Vicious Prince by Lily St. Germain. I'm not sure if it's new adults or adults, but it sounds a little bit like Romeo and Juliet, but it follows Avery and Rome, and they have warring families. The description is very vague, something along the lines of like kidnapping, being captured, arranged marriage. So I'm not quite sure the entire premise of the book, but something seems like Romeo and Juliet-esque, and we'll see how it goes. And then the last book that I spun on my Kindle wheel was For Beautiful Wreck by Larissa Brown. So this is about Jen Herrick. Let me read you the synopsis, because I literally wrote down, read the synopsis, so it must be good. I don't remember, to be honest. I was going to read you the synopsis, but my tablet is not letting me type. So I am not entirely sure what it's about, but I will put a little insert right here. So then I did the same thing with my Scribd audiobooks, and the first one that I got was, a lot of these I have series saved, and I don't know particularly which one is like the first book, etc. Most of them are companion novels, so you don't necessarily have to read them in order, but I want to read them in order just so I'm not like spoiled for like minor details in the other books. But the first one that I got was the Untouchables book, which is like, so the first whatever book I'm on in that series, and it's the Untouchables. And the Forbidden Duke, which is about Eleanor and Titus, and Eleanor is a spinster. She gets a job becoming a companion, and he has to help her solve something. The synopsis is like pretty vague, but he's basically the one that like ruined her, and he has to help her in some way. I'm not entirely sure. And then the next one is this is like Christina Lauren's like most popular book, I would say. You're recommended the most for just like overall readers, and more of what they're writing now is like women's fiction. And this is about Bennett and Chloe, and it's a boss intern. And then the last one is Shipped, and it is Hensley and Graham. She wants a promotion at her job. He takes it from her, and they have to go on a cruise together. So those were the books that I got for Scribd. And then the books that I'm guessing are going to come through my library app, which one of them already has, and then the other two are like within 2 weeks. So the first one is Hench by Natalie Zena Wilscott. And this is about Anna, who is the think she's like an assistant to villains. So there's like heroes and villains in this world. And she is an assistant to a villain. And when she has a run-in with a hero, she ends up getting like really seriously hurt. And then she ends up getting laid off by the villain. And so she has like a revenge plan in mind for the hero. She's basically gonna prove that like heroes aren't good because of how much damage they actually do when they're trying to save people. And she realizes that clips and like social media is a good way to spin the narrative however you want. You can make any type of story believable with how you spin it. So she plans to use all of this like video evidence and stuff and turn it against the hero, to make him look bad and like get revenge. And then the other one that I'm expecting to come through is Good Girl, Bad Blood, which is the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. The first one was when she was in high school solving a murder, but I think this one she might be in college. I'm not entirely sure. All I know is I really loved the first book a whole lot, and so I'm excited to get to the second one. And then the last couple of books that I have from my library aren't necessarily going to fit any prompt, but I'm still excited to give them a shot. So first up is A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This is a dual POV YA fantasy, and it follows a queen and a like runaway. His little sister ends up getting stolen, and the person that steals her basically says you have to kill the queen, which is her, in order to get your sister back. And then simultaneously she wants to resurrect her mother, and to do that she needs the heart of a king. So there's like this competition going on, and whoever wins the competition gets to marry her. So she's gonna take the heart of whoever wins, and then he wants to enter the competition so that he can get close to her and kill her. So then we have Sia Martinez and the Moonlit Beginning of Everything. This is about Sia, whose family was raided by ICE, and they were all taken back to Mexico, and she was left in the United States. And she always drives out to the desert, lights candles to kind of guide her mom back home. And then one day an alien spacecraft crashes in front of her car, and her mom is on it. So obviously this is going to play on the idea of calling immigrants aliens. And then we have two Lisa Jewell books. As far as I know, she writes like murder mysteries, right? Or something along those lines. And I don't know what these are about. People love or hate Lisa Jewell. I think, so it sounds as if it's about a girl named Libby who inherits a $1 million dilapidated home from her parents. But 25 years prior, police were called to this home, and they only found a baby crying and then 3 dead bodies in the kitchen. And then the 4 other children that were reported to live in the house were gone. So that. And then this one, Owen Pick's life is falling apart. In his 30s, a virgin and living in his aunt's spare bedroom, he has been just suspended from his job as a computer science teacher after accusations of sexual misconduct, which he strongly denies. Searching for personal advice online, he is inadvertently sucked into the dark world of incel, involuntary celibate forums, where he meets the charismatic, mysterious, and sinister Brian. Across the city from Owen lives the Fours family, headed by the mom Kate, a psychotherapist, and dad Roan, a child psychologist. Kate and Roan have always had a bad feeling about their neighbor Owen. There's something off about him, and their teenage daughter swears he followed her home from the train station one night. Meanwhile, young Zachary Maddox spent 3 years as a patient of Roan Ford's, feeling abandoned when their therapy ends. She searches for other ways to maintain her connection with him, trailing him when he leaves his practice, and learning more than she wanted to know about Roan and his family. Then on Valentine's night, Zachary disappears, and the last person to see her alive is Owen Pick. There's a lot going on in that, but hopefully these are good. Hopefully I'm a Lisa Jewell fan, and yeah. And then this is the last book that I have checked out, Lakewood by Megan Giddings. When Lena Johnson's beloved grandmother dies and the full extent of the family debt is revealed, the Black millennial drops out of college to support her family and takes a job in the mysterious and remote town of Lakewood, Michigan. On paper, her job is too good to be true. All Lena has to do is participate in a secret research program full of seemingly world-changing discoveries. An eye drop that makes brown eyes blue, a medication that could be a cure for dementia, golden pills promise to make all bad thoughts go away, but the consequences for the subjects involved could be devastating. As the truths of the program reveal themselves, Lena learns how much she's willing to sacrifice for the sake of her family. Wait, there's one more. I will also finally, hopefully, be buddy reading Nevernight by J. Kristoff with Erica, and this is about Mia, who is an assassin. Pretty much everyone knows what this is about, but I will hopefully be reading this. We'll see how this one goes. And that is it for all of the books that I'm gonna read. Comment down below your thoughts on any of the books that I'm planning on reading this month. I would love to hear your opinions. What are you planning on reading this month? If you want to buddy read any of these things, let me know. I am more than willing. And that is going to be it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.